So meet humanitarian and clinical psychologist, Dr. KJ, who prescribes music for healing.
Shine coming out of murder.
This, as the US-based Jamaican practices psychiatry as a profession, but believes his gospel music ministry is a calling. Among KG's extensive list of achievements is a US President Award for humanitarian work. He's right now right here on our stage with a lot of big things to announce. Welcome, sir.
Blessings on you, Winfred.
Good to have you.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. God is good.
Yes.
Yeah, God is good.
So let's start there. At what age did you migrate to the US?
Well, 2014.
Yes.
Just recently, under bad circumstances. In fact, before I migrated, I was a guidance counselor here in Jamaica. I was a pastor, pastoring a church in Knockpatrick. And I was also doing some work with the JCF as an associate chaplain. It so happened my two kids were born in America. And for some strange reason, my wife just decided, you know what, I want to take a trip with the kids to the States. They were in school. My son was 2, my daughter was 4. They were in school. And I was like, why would you want to do that? You know, it was in June. And I was like, just wait until, you know, I'm on break. It's almost July, and we're going to be going on summer break. I'll take my leave, because as a guidance counselor, you're actually an administrator, so you have to apply for leave. We don't get summer like the teachers. She said, no, I just feel like I need to go. 2 days after she got into the States, just finished preaching in church. The topic I was preaching on, Winfred, was whatever happened, don't complain. But I didn't realize that everything I was talking about was me. I was preaching to me, and I didn't know. The phone rang immediately after I finished preaching. Responded to the call. It was a 404 area code number, so I thought it was my wife. So I said, hi, babes. I heard, no, sir, this is not babes, this is doctor, and he gave his name. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I said, how may I help you? And he asked me, called my wife's name, and he asked me, do you know Nicole? I said, yeah. He said, so you need to come now. I said, what's going on? He said, it's not looking good, but wherever you are, you gotta come now. Immediately, I broke down. I started crying because he did say some more stuff about not sure she's gonna make it, it's bad, come and see her. Got a flight out. Winfred, I could not even afford a plane fare at the time. I called several people to help. Eventually, a good friend of mine, he came to my rescue, and I left the next day. When I got there, I left the airport in Atlanta, straight to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, I could not recognize my wife, mark you. She just left 2 days, well, it would have been 3 days ago. Okay. All right? I could not recognize her. And she was bound to a bed. I asked her if she remembers me. She says no. I was like shocked. I don't know what was going on. Well, it went on, and doctors couldn't find out what was going on with her at the time. But I knew I had to make a decision. Either I am going to choose my family, because my toddlers, my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old, they're in the States. They have no supervision by now because my wife is in the hospital. So I had to make a decision. Of course, I choose the obvious. Was it going to be between your family, or you're going to think about the school, you're going to think about the church, or you're going to think about the police force and keep all your jobs? I had to resign. So what I did, I left the United States and I came back, and I resigned from all my jobs. I went back to take care of my family. So a good friend of mine, she decided she would take the kids while I stay in the hospital with my wife. It was the roughest time in my life.
I can imagine.
The roughest time in my life. Just imagine sitting there every day, every night, seeing everything going on. They're taking blood every 2 hours, every 4 hours. Medications, upon medications. She's not remembering who you are. Her features change. She doesn't look nothing like what you know her to be. She's been on every machine in the hospital, and they couldn't find what was happening. So it got to the point, Winfred, where I had to isolate myself from everybody, because by now there were a lot of negative things that were now coming. You know, you must have done something, she must have done something. And think about it, I'm in the church. And so these things begin to play on my mind. So I isolated myself, because that was how I felt I was going to heal. Well, one day I was in the room with her. There were 6 machines hooked up to her, and every machine went flat. Everyone, she died. She was dead. She stopped breathing, everything. And I just heard footsteps coming down the hall, and I heard code blue, code blue. At that time, I didn't even know what code blue was. Code blue, code blue, code blue. 6 nurses came, 3 doctors came. They did everything they could do. But I just turned, the kids flashed in my mind right away. And I was like, how am I going to manage without her? Because she's our backbone. She does everything for us. How am I going to manage? And I just turned my back to the doctors and the nurse, and I looked in the ceiling, and I cried out to God with a loud voice. I cried out, but I cried out in patois, right? So the doctors didn't understand what I was saying. So when I cried out to God, and I said to him, God, you're not so bad. You can't do this, right? Bring her back, and bring her back now. And when I said that, in my desperation, the machines, the bottom one came up, they gave a sound. The second one gave a sound, until all 6 gave a sound. And I heard one of the doctors say, oh my God, she's back, she's back, she's back. And they got to work, and they worked on her. Now, my wife told me that at that moment, she was ascending. Her soul, her spirit was ascending. She said she could look down. She was looking down on her body. She said she couldn't see those around the body. She couldn't see me, she couldn't see the doctor, but she could see her body. And while she was going up and I shouted, it's like she got frightened and her spirit dropped back, fell back in her body. And she did like this. And that's when all the machines came back up, and the doctors say they really worked on her. By now, 3 months had passed. So we're talking about a 3-month period had passed. And the doctor says that, all right, you know, she had Cushing disease. Yeah, it has to do with the hormone. They said, okay, we're going to do surgery. All right. The doctor says the surgery will take about 3 hours. 3 hours. I was walking the theater door, back and forth, theater door. 3 hours. Nothing. Nobody came out to me. 4 hours. Nobody came out to me. 5 hours. Nobody came out to me. Now, by now, Winfred, you know, I'm almost dying now. Because in my mind, she's dead. She's dead. Not knowing that while I am thinking that she's dead, she was actually dead. She was actually dead. 6 hours, nobody. 7 hours, doctors came, sat me down. As soon as I saw the doctor, I started to cry. I couldn't do nothing more but cry. So I started to cry, and the doctor sat and he was just rubbing my leg. And strange enough, the doctor just looked at me and he cried as well. Cried with me, and he said to me, how many children you have? And I told him, and he said, how old are they? And I told him, and he just said, and he got up and he went back in the theater. And when he went back, they did 3 more hours. So she was in theater for 10 hours. Now listen to the miracle. The next day, I was standing in the corridor, and a nurse who was in the theater saw me, and she called me. And she said, what did the doctor say to you yesterday when he came to you? I told her. And she said, that was not what he came to tell you. I said, what? And she said, no. She said, we actually lost your wife in the theater. And the doctor came out to tell you that there's nothing more we can do for her. And so we were going to call it quit. But when he came and he saw the emotions in your eyes, and knowing that you're always here for your wife, He came back and he said, you know what, doctors, nurse, let's do this. Let's try something. And they managed to get her back. They got her back and they worked on her. So when we talk about a miracle, I tell people all the time, Winfred, I don't ask God for a miracle no more, because every day I see a miracle when I look at my wife. I've been through hell, by the way, through the whole ordeal. I remember one time the doctor says she had done a CT scan at another facility, and the doctor wanted to see the image himself. So he needed a disc. So the doctor sent me to get the disc. Now, Winfred, I've been in the States. I have nobody. I have no relative there. Yeah. I know nobody, and I don't have a dime. And so I went to the bus station. I had to take a train and a bus to get to the location. And so I was standing under the bus stop. It was raining cats and dogs. Raining. Quite a number of people under the bus stop. The bus came. And I allowed them to go on the bus because, of course, you know, in Jamaica, I'm a boom drive. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to ask the driver to offer me a ride to the train station so I can get to the hospital. When everybody went to the bus, after everybody went to the bus, I went in. And I was just trying to whisper to the driver so he, you know, let him know that, you know, I don't have any money and I'm just, you know, asking him to take me, I'm going to the hospital. But he didn't hear what I said, and so he closed the bus door until he heard what I said, and he stopped the bus and he kicked me out in the rain. He kicked me out in the rain. I walked for 3 hours and I cried for 3 hours to get to the hospital in the rain. So here am I. All these scenarios has contributed to me wanting to help others, which is why I ventured in the arena that I'm now and the discipline that I do in psychology.
And music.
And music.
Where was music during this time?
Well, I actually found out that I could sing when I was 10 years old. I went to a rally, because I grew up in the church all my life. Went to a rally, and my pastor at the time, Reverend Houghton, was the chairman. And I asked him, you know, if I could sing for my church. Eventually, they said, you know, I could do it. I didn't know. I just felt like I wanted to sing. Don't know if I could sing. Mm-hmm. But I went up there, Winfred. It was a packed rally. And when I went up there, man, and I started singing, listen, it's the most ice cream I ate that night. Now, you know at rallies, everybody would take the money and put it in the oven plate. Nobody did that. Mm. Everybody pushed it in my pocket. My pocket was all full. Every pocket was full of money that night. At 10 years old. Man, I feel good. And ice cream, I was Clyde. Ice cream like crazy.
Seriously? Yeah?
So that's where my musical journey started. And then in high school, when I went to high school, I was a part of a cappella group. We entered festivals. Yeah. And then I became a cabaret singer. Used to sing for Sandals and other hotels here before I went to college. Started doing all of that at 14 years old. I started singing cabaret singing quite early, you know, and all of that. So fast forward to that in 2012, I entered the JCDC gospel competition. I was a finalist in that competition with the song Amazing Love. Yeah, that was my song. But then I put music down. I totally put music down. Yes. Until I migrated and Prodigal Son came to visit me. He came to a show and I met him and we became friends. Mm-hmm. And so he came back and he didn't want to go to a hotel. He wanted to stay with us. So he was at the house. That's Prodigal Son. And he was at the house and apparently he heard me singing sometime and he said to my wife, he can sing, I want to help him. And my wife said to him, no, if you tell him that that's what you're going to do, he's going to tell you he's too busy. Yes. He's not going to do it, so you got to find a way.
So you had no interest?
I didn't have any interest. After 2012, I had no interest at all in it. However, he was sitting in the kitchen one day, and I came downstairs, and I was singing this worship song, we have come into his house, gather in his name to worship him. And I was just worshiping, but he was behind me crying, and I didn't know. So I turned around and I saw him crying, and I stopped, and he said, no, continue, you're ministering to me. I said, really? And then he said, youth, you can't sing, you know. You can't sing. And he left it there. In the evening, he said to me, you know any studio around here? I said, in Atlanta. I said, yeah, I have a virgin at a studio. I said, you want to do some recording down there? He said, yeah. I said, all right, let me call him. So I called my virgin. My virgin said, yeah, man, come 8 o'clock in the night. And I drove him an hour and a half. And I drove him to the studio. So I introduced them, and I sat down because my virgin was excited to meet Prodigal and all of that. So sat down there. But he was there now, you know, listening to rhythms and everything. And, you know, and he would have KJ. And that's, you know, he's like, KJ, you like that rhythm? And I was like, yeah, that sounds good, man. That sounds nice, man, that rhythm there. And then him started to put words, and then what he didn't know, he scratched the first verse and the hook. Well, he's the one who let me know chorus is called hook. And he scratched the hook. And then he says, I want you to sing it like how I sing it. Just let me hear how it sounds. I did it. And when I did it, man, the thing got so interested, man. It's sweet, man, and nice. I Am Not Leaving. That was the title of the song. And when it was completed about 4 a.m., he said to me, it's your song. And I said, what? He said, yeah, man, it's your song. I said, really? He said, yeah. And then he shared a story what my wife told him. I said, oh, so that's how you tricked me into getting into this thing. You know, but then I loved it. I loved it, and there's no stopping now.
So you became a recording artist right there and then? Yeah,
I have an album now, Floodgates.
Yes.
It's streaming on all platforms. So we have a number of songs on YouTube. If you look up Dr. KJ Official, all the songs are there. Floodgates, I Am Not Leaving, Anchor with Joan Flemings, I Will Rise with Jermaine Edwards, and Joy Coming in the Morning with Prodigal Son, and there's quite a lot more. And we're working on album number 2 right now.
So let's take a little piece of your music, huh?
Joy coming out of morning after one whole night of balling.
Joy Coming out of the Morning. The music of KJ featuring the Prodigal Son. Wow. So is it psychiatry or music now for you? What is taking up most of your time? Both?
It's both. And I tell you what, they work hand in hand because both music is therapeutic.
Yes.
All right? If you're sad, music. If people want to make love and they listen to certain music, even if they were Lazarus, as you know it, not go on for them, music enhances. There's just something that music does to the psyche that you want more. All right? Even the legends today, that's why in music, that's why they're so successful, because they are doing so much more for the masses than even just a psychologist.
So your prescription for your patients, can I call them that?
Oh yeah, they're patients.
How do you recommend that they consume music? What do you say to them?
All right, so first of all, we try to find out what they like. Because we don't deal with problems. That's a mistake a lot of people make. We listen to your problems, but we help you through the solution.
Okay.
Music is a solution to whatever problem. Music is just what works for everything.
So it works with your patients?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Now, what I do mostly, I'm in mental health, right? And we deal with children who people would classify as dunce, persons who, you know, for whatever reason, probably drugs or whatever, they might have gone mental, all right? People who nobody looked at. Those are the kind of people that we deal with. And I always tell people, nobody's dunce. They say, no, doc, you can't say that. I said, nobody is dunce. Give that child a song and say, go home and learn that song. That child comes back and sing that song. He's not dunce.
Sick. Oh.
Nobody's dunce. It's just the ability. Some don't have the ability to extend themselves. Yeah. And this is where we come in helping them. So if we can send home a patient with a song as an assignment, and that patient comes back and can sing that song word for word and line for line and everything, nothing is really wrong with the patient.
Okay, so let's get into your home now, or what?
Jamaica is always my home.
But you're visiting. You're still living over.
I'm visiting because I leave soon. I visit.
You leave soon.
Yes.
So you're organizing an event.
Yes.
Isn't this your first event that you're doing in Jamaica?
On that level.
At that level.
Yeah,
yes.
at that level. It's called Embrace the Promise. It's chapters 4 and 5 because we would have done other chapters in the United States. And so when we started, everybody was saying, Doc, you're brave, because I started while the pandemic was going on, because I realized that the way we socialize has changed drastically. And everybody was now online, Zoom, you name it. And, I got a team together and I said, hey, listen, we need to take back this world. And it was out of that I founded the movement, Embrace the Promise. We went into Florida in the height of the pandemic and the place was full. We went to Philadelphia, the place was full. Then we went into New York, it was full. So we repeated the cycle. They were all sold out. And I said, you know what, let's go to Jamaica. Let's take this.
So this is the first in Jamaica?
This is the first in Jamaica.
Oh, so it's a full.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a full?
Yeah. No, let me tell you, Winfred.
Yes.
We have been using the social media.
Yes.
And when I put it out and the others put it out on social media, let me tell you, man, it warms my heart. The love that the Jamaican people is showing for the event, the support that they're already giving towards the event, it is just remarkable. And I realize that people are hungry for these things. If you look at the magnitude of the show that we're bringing to Jamaica, it's the biggest. We have not gone that big in the United States. But I have decided I'm coming home. Now, Westmoreland is home for me, literally. And so one will be in Westmoreland at Manning's. I had to go to Manning's. I had to go home, all right? We're going to be having the return of Prodigal Son. He has not ministered in Jamaica for over 5 years.
Yes, I know.
We're going to have the return of Jason Mighty, who has not been here for over 4 years. We have Jonathan Nelson. Then we have the stalwart, Ron Kenoli. I was shocked when I did my poll and realized everybody wants to see Ron Kenoli. They're hungry for this man. We have Juan Flemings. And I tell everybody, Winfred, I know you're going to be there in Kingston, but I'm wearing a boot, because you're going to dance out the healing. Right.
Okay, sir?
We have a lot. It's just a big show.
Yes. And it's the same lineup going to Westmoreland?
The same lineup is going to be in Kingston.
The day after?
The very next day. So October 29th, we're going to be in Westmoreland. And October 30th, we're going to be in Ronnie Williams Entertainment Center.
Tickets are moving already?
Yes. All Fontana pharmacies island-wide. You can pick your tickets up. And in Westmoreland, of course, Westmoreland a yard again. So one outlet can do a Westmoreland. So we have Royal Pharmacy in Westmoreland, and we have South Sea Pharmacy in White House, along with Fontana. Those are the only 3 outlets. We're also online. You can get early bird online.
Okay,
at Spur Open.
So lots of healing will be going on.
Oh, yeah. We're expecting an outpouring of the blessing and the power of God in this event. People will be healed. I'm expecting lives to be transformed. All of that. And at the same time, we're also giving back to our community. I'm a giver. And God has blessed me to give, because when I had nothing at all, my daughter at 5 years old prophesied in my life. I came home from the hospital when my wife was there to see them. And she saw me coming out of the bus and she ran to meet me and she held my leg, Winfred, and she looked up in my face and she said, Daddy, I'm hungry. And when she said, Daddy, I'm hungry, I couldn't find 25 cents to buy a bottle of water. And I started to cry. And I cried, and she started saying, no, Daddy, I'm not hungry no more. Daddy, I'm not hungry no more. And I looked at her and I cried. And when I was crying, she looked up at me and she said, Daddy, one of these days, God is going to bless us. God is going to bless us, and we're going to feed a lot of people. And I kid you not, Winfred, every week we feed over 4,000 people. Every week.
Oh, where? Here and
Here
overseas?
in the United States, all over. I also have a company. And as a result of my company, we're able to take care of a lot of families. We also send kids to school. We pay their tuition from primary school, high school rather, up to the tertiary level. And this is what the show is all about. We are going to be doing scholarships, especially for education. That's where my focus is.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to seeing you at Embrace the Promise in Kingston.
Well, I shall
your good
be there.
friend Jermaine Edwards is there too.
I intend to be there.
All right, sir. We're going to have a great time.
Yes, sir. And it's on the 29th?
The 30th. Kingston is the 30th
Kingston
of
is the
October.
30th.
And
Yes.
Westmoreland is the 29th.
The 29th.
So Manning's, Westmoreland, and Ronnie William Entertainment Center, Kingston.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us, sir.
My pleasure.
And there's so much more that we could have asked and discussed, but we're out of time. Maybe the next time around we'll get a little deeper and see if some of us can adopt some of your principles.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And could receive some of the blessings that you've received.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? But thanks a lot for sharing so much with us, sir. All right, so that's him in this segment of our show, the man himself, Dr. KJ.